The moving truck had barely pulled away when the first notice arrived, folded with surgical precision. Tucked beneath our brand new welcome mat like a landmine in a gift box. Notice of violation. Lawn height exceeds HOA regulation. I blinked at the paper. We'd been here less than 12 hours. The sod hadn't even rooted. Amanda, ever composed, read it over my shoulder. Well, that didn't take long. She smiled faintly, brushing a wisp of hair from her cheek. Her calm was its own force, years of navigating boardrooms where deals were made behind polished mahogany and tighter smiles. She didn't flinch at pressure. She invited it. This is just a warm-up, I muttered, crumpling the paper. Wait until they see your hammock, she grinned. Oh, they'll love the wind chimes. We'd moved to Lakeshore Valley for its quiet reputation, a gated suburb nestled between two lakes, where the birds chirped like clockwork and the homes looked photocopied. It was supposed to be peace, the stability, a place to slow down. But what? The realtor failed to mention what the brochures omitted was the invisible crown worn by one Karen Whitaker, the self-declared queen of the HOA, president for 6 years, never unseated, known across the neighborhood as a stickler for order, symmetry, and her clipboard the holy trinity of suburban tyranny. We heard about her on the first day from a neighbor named Thomas, who leaned in as if sharing classified intelligence. She measures lawns with a ruler, he whispered. Thinks she's Homeland Security. Amanda chuckled. Let's hope she doesn't think I'm a national threat. 2 days later, she found out just how far Karen's reach extended. Amanda liked to walk at dawn, when the sidewalks were still cool and the birds outnumbered the joggers. That morning, she paused outside a particularly vibrant yard, admiring a rosebush shaped like a spiral staircase. She didn't notice Karen approaching until she heard the voice, clipped, nasal, and laced with suspicion. You don't belong here. Amanda turned slowly. I live on Elm Crescent. Karen squinted. Identification, please. Amanda raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. Karen stepped closer, holding a clipboard like a badge. It's protocol. We've had issues. Strangers loitering. I must verify. Amanda's expression didn't shift. I'm a homeowner. You don't need to verify anything. Karen's nostrils flared, a subtle tremor of offense. Everyone complies with HOA procedures. It's not personal, but it is selective, Amanda replied evenly. I noticed you didn't ask the dog walker behind me. Karen bristled but recovered quickly. We all know Marcy. Long-time resident. You are your new neighbor, Amanda said, voice steady. So perhaps a better welcome would be a smile. At that moment, I was jogging up the sidewalk, having caught the interaction from a distance. I saw Amanda's folded arms and Karen's self-righteous stance. A familiar script was unfolding. Karen turned to me. Is she with you? Yes, I said, trying not to show my irritation. She's my wife. Karen's eyes flickered, surprised, but not deterred. Then you both need to understand this is a gated community. We take our rules seriously. We're not contesting that, Amanda said, just the way they're enforced. Karen offered a tight smile. Some people take time to adjust. Amanda met her gaze. Some people confuse leadership with authority. There was a pause, the kind of silence that sits just a second too long before Karen spun on her heel and marched off, scribbling furiously into her clipboard. We walked home in silence. Amanda didn't say a word until we reached our porch. She wanted to put me in a box, she said finally. Label me, control the narrative. And I asked, though I already knew. Amanda glanced at the mailbox, now freshly painted and regulation compliant. Her lips curled slightly, not in amusement, but anticipation. I don't fit in boxes, she said. I own the whole shelf. A breeze rustled the wind chimes she had quietly installed that morning. They sang a soft, defiant tune, and I knew then Karen had picked the wrong woman. By the end of the first week, it was clear Karen wasn't going to let Amanda's defiance go unanswered. A second violation notice arrived, this time citing our porch lighting as excessively bright and disruptive to community ambience. The bulbs were standard issue. A third letter claimed Amanda's vehicle had been parked facing the wrong direction, and the fourth, the hammock, unauthorized hanging structures on front-facing property. That one came with a photo stapled to the notice, taken from the sidewalk. She's watching us, I said, thumbing through the papers at the kitchen counter. Amanda, seated at the breakfast nook with her laptop open, didn't look up. Let her. You're not going to respond. She clicked, scrolled, then calmly typed something before answering. Oh, I'm responding. Just not the way she expects. The printer chirped, spitting out a form labeled Request for HOA Governing Documents and Financial Disclosures. You're going legal, I said, a mix of admiration and concern. Amanda smiled. No, I'm going structural. In truth, I'd never seen Amanda this quietly focused, not even when she closed a $40 million merger 2 years ago. Her calm wasn't surrender, it was strategy. She studied HOA bylaws like she was preparing for trial. She flagged inconsistencies, noted Karen's overreach, and started building a file so meticulous it made the IRS look lazy. Karen, meanwhile, doubled down. She paraded past our house twice daily, sunglasses gleaming, clipboard clutched, like a judge's gavel. Every walk was a verdict. Neighbors greeted her with tight smiles, then whispered apologies behind her back. She's always been like this. One woman confided while walking her poodle past our driveway. She thinks she's protecting the neighborhood, but really, she's just protecting her throne. Amanda didn't flinch. Then it's time someone reminded her that thrones can be revoked. That moment came at the quarterly HOA town hall, a spectacle Karen had long turned into her personal pageant, held in the community clubhouse. These meetings were infamous for their rigid format. Karen led, the board nodded, and residents rarely spoke unless called upon. Amanda and I arrived early. She wore a tailored blazer, charcoal gray, with a subtle pin on her lapel, the only remnant from her former life in corporate America. She didn't need to speak to command a room. She just existed in it with purpose. Karen entered 5 minutes late, flanked by her usual allies to loyal board members, and her ever-present clipboard. Her smile faltered when she spotted us seated in the front row. "Well," she said, loud enough for the room to hear. "Glad you could join us. No ID required this time." Laughter rippled uneasily through the room. Amanda remained seated, legs crossed, hands folded. Karen continued, "Before we begin, I want to remind newer residents that participation in voting requires verified residency. If your documents aren't on file, I'm afraid you'll have to sit this one out." She glanced directly at Amanda. Amanda looked up. "Is that in the bylaws?" Karen smirked. "It's protocol." "Protocol," Amanda echoed, "isn't the same as policy. And neither override homeowner rights protected by state HOA statutes." A few heads turned. Someone murmured, "She's not wrong." Karen stiffened. "We'll proceed according to established procedures." Amanda rose slowly, removing a folder from her satchel and setting it on the table before her. "I'd like to submit a motion," she said. Karen frowned. "That's not how this works. It's how it should work," Amanda replied. "And according to Section 4.3 of the Charter, any homeowner can propose an emergency motion if supported by at least 2 members of the board." She turned to the man seated at the end of the board table, Mr. Ramos, a retired CPA who'd been eyeing Karen warily all night. "I support it," Ramos said. Karen whipped toward him. "You what?" Ramos nodded. "She's right. It's in the bylaws." Amanda opened her folder and began distributing copies of a proposal. Motion to conduct a full audit of HOA operations, including financials, citation procedures, and leadership elections. A murmur turned into a wave. Karen tried to retake control, voice shrill. "This is an ambush. You can't just hijack the meeting." Amanda didn't even blink. "This isn't a hijacking. This is accountability." Karen stood, trembling with indignation. "This meeting is adjourned until further notice." But no one followed her out. She stormed out alone, the sound of her heels eclipsed by the rising voices of homeowners reading Amanda's motion, flipping pages and asking questions they'd never dared voice before. Amanda looked at me, calm and focused. She's not the only one who knows how to play the long game. And just like that, the balance began to shift. The days after the town hall felt like the air had changed. Neighbors began waving more freely, chatting longer at mailboxes, and walking their dogs a little slower past our house. Something unspoken had cracked open. For the first time in years, people weren't whispering about the HOA, they were talking about it out loud. Karen, on the other hand, went conspicuously silent. No more twice daily patrols, no more notices tucked under our door, no more pointed stares through aviator sunglasses. But Amanda knew better than to mistake silence for surrender. "She's circling the wagons," Amanda said one morning, scrolling through her tablet trying to figure out who's still loyal. I peered over her shoulder. She had a spreadsheet, open names, email chains, meeting minutes, and columns marked with red, yellow, and green. "You made a threat matrix." "I made a strategy," she replied, tapping a note that read, "Board VP potential swing vote." That afternoon a sealed envelope arrived, no return address. Inside was a formal letter from the HOA board, announcing a closed executive session to review Amanda's proposed audit motion. It was scheduled for Thursday evening, and the location had changed, no longer at the clubhouse, but at the HOA's administrative office across town. "Private, controlled, strategic. They're trying to corner me," Amanda said, slipping the letter back into its envelope. "Are you going?" "Oh, I'm not just going," she said. "I'm going to finish this." The office was sterile and small, tucked into a strip mall between a tax service and a dry cleaner. We arrived 5 minutes early. Karen was already inside, seated at the end of a long faux wood table like a monarch awaiting a rival claimant. 2 board members flanked her, one looking nervous, the other unreadable. Amanda entered like she owned the floor. No hesitation, number, posturing. She carried a single binder and nothing else. Karen looked up and forced a smile. "Mrs. Leclerc, we appreciate your initiative, but we must inform you. Your audit request was reviewed and deemed outside procedural bounds." Amanda raised an eyebrow. "By whom?" Karen gestured to the board. "By majority decision." Amanda turned to the 2 board members. "May I ask when the vote was held?" Silence. The nervous one shifted. The unreadable one looked away. Amanda placed her binder on the table and opened it slowly. Let the record show that no official vote was documented in HOA minutes, nor was the session noticed to the community as required under Article 6.1 of the Charter. Karen's smile faltered. We don't need to justify executive sessions to residents. You do when the resident in question is also the majority shareholder of the developer that created this HOA. That line hit like a lightning strike. Karen blinked out. Amanda continued, her voice steady, but now with a sharp edge. You're operating under a charter that was created by Millstone Development Partners. As of last week, I acquired 62% of Millstone's holdings, including developer control rights over this community's governing documents. Karen's face drained of color. Amanda pulled a second document from the binder and handed it to the unreadable board member. He read the first line and audibly swallowed. This gives me appointment authority over the board, Amanda said, and the right to dissolve and reconstitute leadership in accordance with state law. Karen tried to speak but couldn't find the words. Her voice came out choked. You can't just walk in here and take over. Amanda's gaze was calm and brutal. I didn't walk in, I bought in. While you were writing violation notices, I was acquiring your legal superior. The nervous board member looked to Karen, then to Amanda, then quietly pushed back from the table. Amanda addressed the room. Effective immediately, I'm suspending this board pending a full third-party audit. You'll each receive formal notice and non-disclosure agreements by the end of the day. Karen, your access to HOA communications and authority is revoked until further review. Karen stood slowly, stunned. This is my neighborhood. Amanda stood as well, looking her directly in the eyes. No, this neighborhood belongs to the people who live in it. You were just keeping the chair warm. We walked out of that strip mall in silence. Amanda didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply walked with quiet certainty, like a storm that had passed but left its mark. As we reached the car, I turned to her. That's it. Amanda looked back at the office. Not quite. Now we rebuild. It didn't take long for the neighborhood to notice the shift. The next HOA meeting was packed, standing room only. For the first time in years, people actually wanted to be there. Gone were the anxious glances, the whispered complaints, the silent compliance. Instead, voices rose with questions, suggestions, hope. Amanda sat at the center of the room, not at the head of the table, but among the residents. No clipboard, no condescension, just a binder, a soft-spoken presence, and an open floor. She wasn't interested in ruling. She wanted to liberate, and the people responded by it. Mr. Ramos, the formerly silent board member, volunteered to chair the audit committee. Marcy, the dog walker who had once been Karen's ally, asked to help revise the outdated rulebook. A teenage girl named Jaya proposed turning the old HOA bulletin board into a community news space. Even the lawn violations stopped. Amanda had officially suspended all punitive notices pending the audit, and the difference was immediate. Yards became vibrant again. Porch lights varied. Wind chimes sang freely. But perhaps the most telling change came from Karen herself. 2 weeks after Amanda's takeover, we spotted her walking alone without sunglasses or clipboard. She paused across the street from our house, eyeing the blooming rosebush Amanda had planted the day after the strip mall meeting. She crossed over, hesitantly. Her posture had changed, shoulders lower, gaze uncertain. Amanda met her at the edge of the driveway. I suppose you're expecting an apology, Karen said stiffly. Amanda tilted her head. No, I'm expecting growth. Karen looked away, her voice softer now. I didn't mean to make enemies. I thought I was protecting something important. Amanda considered that. But it stopped being about the community a long time ago. Silence hung between them. Not hostile, just honest. Karen finally said. I don't know what I am in this neighborhood anymore. Amanda didn't answer immediately. Then, with quiet clarity, she said, maybe you're just a neighbor. That can be enough. Karen nodded slowly, then turned and walked on. I watched the exchange from the porch, unsure whether to feel satisfaction or pity, maybe both. Karen had been dethroned not by force, but by exposure. She had wielded control like a weapon and been undone by someone who never needed it. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the pines and the air cooled with possibility, Amanda and I sat on the porch swing. Do you miss it? I asked. The city, the boardrooms, the titles. Amanda looked out across the street where 2 boys rode bikes in looping circles, their laughter echoing off the houses. Not really, she said. Here the stakes feel real. People live with the consequences. You turned this place around in a month. She smiled faintly. I didn't turn it. I just reminded them they could steer. She sipped her tea and added, authority is loud. Real leadership is quiet. A car drove by, windows down, music low. The driver waved. Amanda waved back. I leaned into her shoulder. So, what now? Now, she said, we rebuild. Fairly, transparently. We write rules that protect people, not control them. And she did. The HOA bylaws were overhauled through open sessions. Fines became a last resort, not a first strike. Community service replaced cash penalties. Residents voted on their priorities: green spaces, kids programs, monthly BBQs. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. The neighborhood started breathing again. Amanda declined the official title of HOA president. She said labels weren't the point. Instead, she helped set up a rotating council so no one held the crown for too long. Karen never returned to power, but she did plant new flowers in her yard, and for the first time, she let them grow wild. The final surprise came. One morning when a parcel arrived, hand-delivered and wrapped in blue twine, Amanda opened it on the porch. Inside was a plaque, engraved in brushed steel, "To the real boss for restoring more than order, for restoring trust." Below it, dozens of signatures from our neighbors. Amanda didn't say much, just traced the metal with her fingers, then set it quietly on the windowsill above her favorite chair as the wind chimes danced in the breeze. I looked at her, the woman Karen had once demanded ID from, the woman no one recognized on day one, don't now. She was the heartbeat of Lakeshore Valley, all without ever raising her voice.